Coach, let's talk about wide receiver play, but not how fast a guy is or how wide open a guy is, but some things that wide receiver has to do that maybe isn't their favorite thing to do and has a lot to do with the coaching. Now, Mickey Marotti, the strength coach at Ohio State, says that you were a offensive line coach coaching wide receivers. That's a direct quote. So it's interesting that the first thing we're going to talk about is the wide receivers blocking.
The number one thing that receivers really not necessarily want to do, they're usually not very good at it, and that's blocking. Right. Yet that's a big part of the ball game. You want to take a 4-yard run and turn it into a 40-yard run, have your receivers block. You know, we're going to watch some clips here in a minute. The best running teams in the country, their receivers are probably the best blockers in the country. So number one is blocking. Number two is called releases. And releases are something when you get man-on-man, you know, bump and run coverage, or the corner playing up into you, how do I get off that? That's not natural. That's not a natural skill that in a backyard you're doing as a little guy or whatever. So number two is releases. And number three is top ends of routes. And so the great receivers go from 22 miles an hour they're running, and they have to stop on a dime or have to break on a dime. You want to see a great receiver? I'll show you a great receiver that blocks, that releases off the line of scrimmage, and has an excellent top end.
Well, let's not disappoint Mickey. Let's start with blocking.
Absolutely. Let's take a look up top here. The number 2 receiver is Ibuka, number 2 for Ohio State. So once again, this is an act of selflessness. This is a team-first mentality by, first of all, the position coach, which is Brian Hartline, and obviously the receiver. So here's what you're asking this player to do. Usually he's a little undersized. He's blocking a guy bigger than him. He's got to come off, and this is about a 4 to 6 second block. He's point of attack. You have to accelerate your feet on contact. You got to keep your hands inside or it's a holding play. But here's the interesting thing. They're running right down the back of your legs. Mm-hmm. You got to keep your feet moving. If not, you know what happens? You stop your feet, you get hurt. Right. So once again, how do you grade him? He's going to try to displace the defensive back. He's given not good effort. He's given great effort. He's accelerating his feet, and he's given a tailback Ohio State an open space to get some positive yards. That run was a 3-yard run turned into an 8-yard run because of the receiver's block.
So when you're recruiting, do you talk a lot about blocking when you're in the home of the great wide receiver?
I don't believe that ever comes up. It's about touchdown passes, how I block. No, that doesn't come up.
What happens if they ask you, do I have to block if I come?
Yeah. If they have to have...
Never mind, you don't want to ask the question. Next thing to talk about is the release.
So release, there's 2 ways to evaluate release. Are you getting his hands off you?
Right.
And I used to always say this, are you getting his hips going opposite of where you're going? A great release means if I'm going inside, his hips should be going where?
Outside.
Outside. Right. We have a great clip here. Marvin Harrison Jr. up top. Now he's selling a vertical push off him, but watch him slap his hands off him. See him slap, see his right hand? He slaps his hand. Is his hands clear? Yes. Right. How about his right hip? His right hip opens up.
Right.
Marvin's going inside, but he sells hard outside. That's it. Technically, once again, this is an A+. So Marvin Harrison, number 1, has got to get his hands off him. So he's going to take the right hand, swat his hands. Because the defensive back, if he has a chance, he's going to grab you. The second thing, look at the right hip of the defensive back. Why is that right hip? Because Marvin Harrison did a great job accelerating like he's going outside. How do you evaluate if the release worked? Hands off, hips opposite.
Coach, number 3 is what you call top end. Your buddy Gus Johnson calls Charlie Jones here on the screen Chuck Sizzle.
Yeah, I'm too old to say Chuck Dizzle. I can't say that. So it's Charlie Jones.
It's Charlie Jones.
And his wide receiver coach is Garrick McGee.
Yeah,
been around. I've known Garrick for a long time.
Yeah.
Excellent coach.
Yes.
For the viewer, top end is the ability to go from a vertical to another inside or outside.
Okay.
It's the ability to go from an outside to an inside and inside to an outside. Okay. And the things to keep in mind, without wasted movement and as fast as possible. So without wasted movement means if I got to use my arms to, you know, transition from out to in, that takes too much time. You're not going to separate. So you're going to see here in a minute, Charlie
Sizzle.
Jones. No, I'm not going there. Watch the right foot slam into the ground. Yep. This is well coached. The defensive back from Nebraska is already, it's only a 6-yard route. He's already 2 yards behind him. Why? Sure, he's quick, and I'm sure the defensive back's quick for Nebraska. But the technique here, there's no wasted movement. He transitions from a vertical, remember I said the transition from vertical in or out, or out to in, or in to out.
This doesn't come natural. This isn't someone running a 4.440.
This takes sometimes 2 years to develop. I'm talking about this level. This is high-level execution by Purdue and Charlie Jones here to execute this, how fast he's going. If this was a bad release, this would be a gain of 6.
Right. Difference between 6 and a touchdown.
6 and a touchdown is the top end of the route.
O'Connell. Touchdown, Purdue! Chuck Sizzle.